Hello and welcome to today's edition of Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. In this program, we take the questions that you send to us, we answer them, we discuss them. Please continue to email your questions. The email is at the bottom of the screen, questions@thefatimacenter.com. Here's an interesting comment that we received. Just a couple days ago, we aired a program about communion in the hand and the fact that Catholics should not receive communion in the hand. And we got a rather indignant response saying, I am willing to obey whatever our parish priest and our archbishop has in place. May God's will be done. And someone else accused us of being Protestant because we were questioning the goodness and the veracity of this communion in the hand process that the bishops allow. So what do you have to say about that, Father?
I guess I should deal with the Protestant one first. I remember meeting a bishop, mind you, and he accused me of being a Protestant because I didn't accept what the bishops said on a certain point. I must say I forgot what the point was. But the idea, what defines a Protestant is not that they question what authority says when authority is wrong. What defines a Protestant is that they say that their interpretation of Scripture is the correct one. And no one can budge them from it.
And there is no magisterium for that.
And there's no magisterium, yes. Whereas in fact, what we're being is not being Protestant, but we're being more Catholic than the parish priest. We're being more Catholic than the archbishop, and we could be more Catholic than the Pope, possibly, depending on the event. Because what we have in the Catholic Church is we know what the Catholic Church teaches. In fact, for that matter, we know what the Catholic Church law is. And so when the archbishop or the parish priest says, you must take communion in the hand, I understand that this must be, from the question, it's implied that, so I'm going to obey my parish priest. He tells me, take communion in the hand because I'm telling you so. I'm sorry, that's not obedience. That's an abuse of obedience. The whole idea is that, why do we obey in the first place anybody? I obey my father, I obey the bishop, I obey the Pope, because God has given him authority to command. But God does not give authority to command for me to do something against God's law. Just as when we have the definition, there's three persons of the Blessed Trinity, the Catholic Church can't come out tomorrow, not even the Pope can come out tomorrow and say, well, now we decided there's four persons in the Blessed Trinity. No, because that would contradict what the Church has always taught, would contradict what God taught.
Yeah, the objective truth itself, yes.
And therefore, the Pope doesn't have authority to make a new doctrine, nor does he have authority to make a law contrary to the law of God.
Which is defined in Vatican I, by the way.
Yes, exactly, yeah. All of that. Now, so here we have, in fact is, the Pope, any Pope reigning up to this moment, up to this second, has said, communion on the tongue is the law. That's what it says. They may say, oh, he's stupid, he doesn't know what it is. I have done the research. I challenge anybody, including a Pope, to prove me wrong. Second thing is, if they want the sources, I can give them too. But the second thing is, there is an exception. There's what is called an indult. You can go against the law under certain conditions. But if those conditions are not met, then you can't go against the law. So the law is communion on the tongue. I'm talking now about the Latin Rite. I'm not talking about the Byzantine Rite. And most of the people were talking here about the Byzantine or the Latin Rite. So the law for the Latin Rite is communion on the tongue. The priest is to administer, the priest or the deacon is to administer. I'm not even talking about extraordinary. If there's such a thing as an extraordinary minister, even he, should there be, and I don't think they're legitimate by the law either, but in any case, the priest or the deacon giving communion, or the bishop or the cardinal or the Pope giving communion, must give it on the tongue, unless 7 conditions are met and 2 principles are followed. And they are not followed. I mean, I dare anyone to prove to me that they're followed. I'm not saying that in one particular instance it can't be found, but overall, generally, it can't be found.
Right.
Okay. And one of the principles, one of the simple ones is, care must be taken that no particle, not just the host, but no particle of the host falls on the ground. So I've done my own research. I looked up there and watched people go to communion. I must say I was edified to find that 20% of the people actually look in their hand to see if there's a particle afterwards, and if they do, they put it in their mouth. But there's 80% who don't. And so therefore the danger of dropping particles on the ground. Now we've also had a test done, we've given the results in the Crusader, that for about 100 people, about 80 people, and those numbers are in many particles are left in the hand. So really, there must be no danger. Well, the danger is there, therefore the condition doesn't exist. Therefore, communion on the tongue is the rule, period.
And another thing, too, is, in the Tridentine Mass, once the priest consecrates the host,
yes.
Now these rubrics to safeguard even the smallest particle are built right into the Old Mass,
yes.
the Old Latin Mass. And once the priest consecrates these two, the thumb and the forefinger, they stay together. And even when the priest lifts the chalice or opens the tabernacle, these are together until they are purified.
Yes.
And communion in the hand just makes a mockery
Yeah. Well, I mean,
of thousands of years, centuries and centuries of practice that would ensure that proper reverence is given to the smallest particle.
well, because it's defined in the Council of Trent, and once the definition is made, it can't be changed. The definition is infallible. It's not only cannot be changed, but also it is true. It is infallibly true. So, I mean, I might say I'm going to miss the train at 5:35. That's my opinion. Maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't. It's not infallible. But if I say there's the smallest particle of the host is the body and blood of soul and divinity of Jesus Christ, that's infallibly defined. It can't change. That's the truth. There's no way around it. So to drop the host on the ground, even involuntarily, is a sacrilege. That the church has always taught. And you find that in the, again, if they're looking for it, in Memoriale Domini of the, I think that's the, Mysterium Fidei of Paul VI of the 3rd of September, 1965. The rules I'm talking about, by the way, are found in Memoriale Domini in the postscript in French. We've translated them. If anyone wants a copy of those 7 rules and 2 principles in the words, we've translated into English. I had 2 other priests besides myself. I know French, but I had 2 other priests, and all 3 of us acknowledge that each one of this translation is accurate.
And also, we in the face of all this too, we have the explanation given by St. Thomas Aquinas that says only that which is consecrated should touch that which is consecrated. And he says, so the paten is consecrated, the ciborium is consecrated for holy use, the chalice and the priest's hands are consecrated.
Yes.
And so the introduction of communion in the hand opens it up to the consecrated host being put into the hands of people's hands who are not consecrated. And that does mean something. It's not something that changes. I mean, because I use an iPad or use an electric razor, it doesn't mean now I can justify desecration of the Eucharist in any way.
Well, I mean, the fact is that, people, even though we have all these modern appliances and things and so forth, people still feed themselves through the mouth. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, that's what God made them. So that doesn't change. I'm not talking about people who are sick, but that's how we're made. We look with our eyes. We don't look with our ears. Okay? I mean, so there's certain things about us and about the way things are done that don't change, even with the most modern appliances there are. So in turn, when the church says that communion in the tongue is the rule, for those who want to obey, then they should obey the rule that God has been promulgated by God. They are not obeying God when they do what the Archbishop says, contrary to the principles that are enshrined in canon law and enshrined in the teachers, the magisterium of the church.
Well, it's a similar thing too. We're running out of time, but similar thing too. I mean, I have a son, and if I said to him, "Son, it's Sunday morning, but today I don't want you to go to church and fulfill your Sunday obligation. Today I want you to stay home and help me clean the garage." Now, there's the commandment: honor thy father and my mother, and he's supposed to obey me. But my son, who's young, would have the right to say, "Dad, I'm not going to obey," because you're ordering something that's contrary to God's law and God's rule.
Yes.
So it's not strict obedience. Obedience is just not blind. Freemasonry has blind obedience.
Yes.
But the Catholic Church is obedience to the faith first.
Obedience to God first, and we obey the representatives of God in as far as they don't go contrary to the law of God.
Right. Okay. Yes, okay. Well, that wraps up this. We hope it has cleared up any misunderstandings, and we will see you on the next broadcast.